Mindcast, the Swiss startup podcast. Episode 7: How do I find capital? Presented and produced by Swiss Minds. Supported by the High-Tech Center in Aargau. Welcome to Mindcast. Today's episode is about finding capital. How do I find capital as a startup? My guest today is Daniel Gutenberg. Daniel is a seasoned investor and business angel. Maybe you introduce yourself shortly?
Yes, thank you for the invitation. I have been a business angel and investor since almost 20 years. I started as an entrepreneur myself, started a company or several companies, sold them. The last big one in the year 2000, and since then I'm a full-time business angel and venture capitalist and invest in seed, Series A, in startups, mostly technical, a lot of internet stuff, and a little bit of life sciences.
Thank you very much. Happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
So, starting with investments, you had a company, Gutenberg Communication, which you sold in the 90s, let's put it like this. How did you start investing?
So my very first idea to invest was actually a sad story. I was distributing hard disks, portable hard disks, and I was importing them from the United States. It was a great business. It was growing months over months like crazy and made good money for me. And one day my contact in the States told me that he went bankrupt and he couldn't deliver anymore. And I was totally shocked. I couldn't believe it. I flew over there the next day to meet him. And what I perceived as being the Swiss market doing 1 or 2% of his worldwide turnover, he then told me that no, actually I was doing 80% of his turnover and just wasn't enough to sustain his factory. So I decided on the spot that I need to have at least a share of companies I work with, so I can see in the books and get the results and have an idea of what role I'm playing with those companies. And so the next 3 companies I was dealing with were Netscape, NetScreen, and Intershop, and I got shares of all those 3 companies, and all those 3 startups at that time became billion-dollar companies. So that was my start of becoming an investor.
Okay, so the subject of this talk is about how to find capital. For an investor kind of view, are there killer criteria for not investing into any startup?
Well, I mean, there's different kinds of investors. I can only talk about my killer criteria. I mean, the main point, of course, is the team. Not like many people think the idea, but more based on the team, for me at least. And the team has to be made out of people who think, sleep, and eat their idea. So they really want to, show the world that they can achieve something or make the world a better place or whatever they want to do. They have to really believe in it.
How about the product? Are there any restrictions on the product?
What I'm looking for, at least, is something that is a lot better than what's already out there. So I'm not looking to do a product that is 10% better or 10% cheaper than what's out there. I'm looking for something that's 10 times better or 10 times cheaper.
You had several presentations about the 6 lies of an entrepreneur during the pitch. If they say 2% of the market share is enough for us, why is this a problem?
Well, they often come with some kind of McKinsey or other statistics out of the internet saying that the market is hundreds of millions, and they say, well, we only need to have 1% then, and we're tens of millions of turnover. But that's not that easy to get 1%. I mean, it's not like that you can address the whole market and convince everybody or the 10th guy to buy your product. So I think those top-down calculations are not the right way to do it. I prefer when people calculate from bottom up and say, I've been trying it here in the school and I convinced 20% of the school within 2 weeks, and then I'm going from the school to the village, from the village to the city.
So the next lie is actually our calculations are very conservative. So this comes about the same way. If top-down is conservative, then the bottom-up conservative would be better in this case.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's just also that, I mean, this is, as an investor, you hear that every day so often. Don't use those phrases because they're just, I heard them, or all investors heard them one too many times, I guess.
Same thing is we have no competitors.
Exactly. It's all a definition of competitor. And if you are the only Chinese, Hawaiian ice cream parlor that sells cakes in town, that doesn't mean that you have no competitors.
So what would be the best tips and tricks for our startups to find investors or find capital?
Well, what I think many investors, including me, are looking for is the secret that you know and nobody else knows. So I'm looking for people that have an idea that they're really, really strongly believing in, but nobody else believes in it. And that can lead to very successful companies. And the idea has to be such that if it works, it's a no-brainer. Then you really do a huge business and a huge turnover. So the risk is not if you're gonna conquer the market, if you can make the product. The risk is, can you make it? And that risk I'm very willing to take. And at the end, it just can happen that it's not possible to produce the product the way we were looking at. But you have to have kind of a secret that nobody else believes in. One of the best analogies that I have for that is this company that 13 years ago, Mobileye, came to me, and the engineer or professor, Amnon, said to me, you know, we can do measurement of cars, distance of the next car or of crash with only one camera. And everybody else thinks we need two cameras to calculate the distance, or we need a camera plus a laser, or a camera plus a radar to have the exact distance. And he said, no, I'm sure only with one camera I can do it, because if I drive around with one eye closed, I still know exactly when it's going to crash into the wall out of experience. And the experience we can simulate in IT. And so 13 years later, it turns out that everybody else was developing two cameras, radars, lasers, and they were all wrong. We can do it with one camera, cost us much, much less than the other systems, and we're now having more than 70% of all the car manufacturers using our solution.
Mm-hmm. So you have experience in the Swiss market, you have international experience, and you were talking about the secret sauce of the startup. If I would be a startup coming to you and you're asking for the secret sauce, I would say, well, you want my secret, you have to sign an NDA. What would you react upon that?
I do sometimes sign an NDA. I prefer not to, because I think to explain to me the first idea and what it's about, you don't need to reveal secrets. And I think on a first meeting, I usually don't sign NDAs. I look at hundreds of companies. I would not feel well signing hundreds of NDAs every year, and they're valid for I don't know how long, and I couldn't even keep track on them. So I rather not sign an NDA in the first meeting, and I always tell people, only tell me publicly available information. Don't go into details. Don't go into numbers. Whatever you don't want other people to know, don't tell me. I think I can, judge an idea or a team, because I'm mainly looking at the team anyway, not at the idea, even without that.
Okay. Coming to the best and the worst, in case of financing, investing, do you have a best case story you can tell, and also a worst case story you could tell?
Well, I guess Mobileye that went public last October for $10 billion is definitely a very nice story. One especially comes just into my mind, where we have struggled for many years, is a company that makes people happy called Happify. It's a website that makes people happy, and we have struggled a long time now to find how to make it economically work. And suddenly, in the last 2 months, we kind of found the trick, and now the economics are right, so we can scale it very quickly. And we notably made this turn just before the company went out of money, luckily. So I'm very happy about that. On the worst stories, I had 3 companies with fraudulent, I should say even criminal CEOs where I trusted in the wrong people. And all 3 of them survived at the end, but it cost me a lot of energy and money to make them survive. And one story was especially bad because the CEO of that company was an employee of mine for many years and worked in the office next door. So I've seen him many years as an employee, and I thought he was a great guy because he always came on time in the morning, and he never went out having beers with everybody, left to go home, and worked 3 years for me. I lost him out of sight, and then when I had a startup in mind, I was looking for a CEO. I hired him without doing any background checks. But what I didn't know is that while he was working for me in this office next door, he was already in jail, nighttime jail. He was able to work daytime. So my own reference kind of didn't check out. And I had to have him arrested by the police at the end. It was a very dramatic story, and I had to pay everything from my pocket to make sure that this company survived. So that really hurts when you know, because you bet on the team and you think this is your main competency to judge people, and then you're completely wrong. So that hurts a lot.
Mm-hmm. So it comes down to people finally. It's not the product, it's not the idea, it's the people and their execution and their doing right.
Absolutely, absolutely. As many people will tell you, you can have the best product in the world with a bad team, it's not going to sell. And you can have a bad product with a good team and sell it like a hot cake.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you would have a choice, seeing a person at your position here, what would that person be, or who would that person be, and what would he talk about, or she?
Well, that's very, not that easy, but quite easy. I think one of the most interesting men right now is Elon Musk from Tesla. He has unbelievable ideas and an incredible drive to push them through. And another guy I look up to would be maybe, I don't know if it's Warren Buffett or Peter Thiel. They're both are very interesting persons, and I really hope you can get them here.
With your help, I hope. Well, Daniel, thank you very much for this very deep insight in this subject. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
This was Mindcast, the Swiss startup podcast. You find more information and other episodes under www.mindcast.tv.